left with the priest. Justin sat down next to Rex. Maybe it was all in his head, but he had a distinct impression that Rex already knew. That he knew just by looking at Justin, knew what had taken place. He'd met several men who were just like him. Perhaps he was confident in his strength and felt he could defeat him in a one-on-one fight. However, that didn't make being alone with him any less unsettling. He knew about what Rex had done to the other vampire. Amy had told him everything about meeting with him. But the other vampire, she claims, had a blatant hostility towards symbols of faith. Rex should have felt much more at peace knowing that he was at a place of worship. He could be lucky. Maybe Rex didn't know there were different kinds of vampires. Even now, I just don't understand. Rex started talking, staring ahead of him. We need to know, why would a vampire want to stay with a random human? When Rex finally turned around to face Justin, he noticed he had been talking to him the whole time. Why did you give in to him? With resentment, Justin thought about the question. He couldn't help but comply, after all. It had never been a choice. It wasn't as if Milo approached him, asking if he would be allowed to stay with him or if being turned into a monster was something he would be okay with. It was especially irritating that he hadn't even offered to chip in for the rent. All of this just happened to him. I didn't exactly get a choice in any of this, Justin answered, only then fully understanding his circumstances. Then, suddenly, a few things clicked into place in his mind. That was not what he had requested. He was disgusted by Milo and what he had done. In short, he wasn't a horrible person. He would have been slain if he had challenged Milo. However, the situation had changed. Because of Amy's support, he was able to confront him. Previously, Milo had not wanted him to share this information with Amy. As long as he had support from someone, anybody, he knew he could defend himself. This provided him with some unexplained comfort. And he was on the verge of emotionally distancing himself from it for the first time, taking a detached observer's stance on the situation. Suddenly, he started laughing more heartily than he had in months. Rex's face suddenly took on a worried look. How I could have possibly justified having him remain with me is beyond me. Still, that's not even the worst part. He had trouble breathing for a second. Even though he had no idea why, he thought the whole thing to be rather funny. He took my bed, and I simply let him, Rex said. That doesn't seem humorous. That sounds fucking scary. He showed no apparent signs of happiness or emotion. Nonetheless, he regarded him pityingly, seemingly comprehending his emotional meltdown. We'll deal with it. It, referring to Milo. He was suddenly able to control his outburst of laughter at the words. When Rex said deal with, he meant killing him. His stomach turned over. But he couldn't say why. If Rex were to murder Milo, the latter would no longer pose an issue. If contemplating this made him feel nauseous, why? Rex, becoming more anxious, urged, tell me everything. Justin had a fleeting thought that Rex might be able to exploit Milo's vulnerability against him if he revealed these details about Milo. But he'd already started pouring his guts without pausing to think about it. He told him about Milo's preferred midnight strolls. He was then informed of Milo's illness. Finally, telling him about Grendel. He started referring to Grendel more than Milo and didn't even realize it. It's one thing to murder someone, but you wouldn't believe what he did before that. That is discussed to a whole new level. Then he went on to describe in detail how he found him and what he saw him doing. Things he still couldn't talk about with Amy. Why am I here? Amy sat down next to Matt. Though she didn't expressly request it, Amy was able to read her intentions. There was something off about her appearance. She both looked very young and old at the same time. If it weren't for the fact that she was alive and moving about, she could have thought she was looking at a Halloween store prop. However, Amy was unafraid. Instead, she felt a need to protect Matt. I can't do it without your help. Her voice was shaky when she spoke. Have you ever thought about what it would be like to be buried for centuries? She didn't have to meet Amy's gaze to show how much she was in pain. Her eyes said it all. It was strange to see how my tomb looked compared to the others. Sandstone was used in the construction of mine. Everyone else appeared to be made of metal. They were so terrified of me that they didn't even bother transferring me to a more modern coffin. For a brief moment, her eyes became dark. But I'll show them anyway. Everyone who was a part of my pain and suffering. He will pay the most, especially him. He will not be able to relax. And he'll soon realize it's all because of me. Only then will I provide him with relief. Only if he begs for death. Amy was hesitant to ask. Who? Of course, my husband. As she tried to smile, the intense look of rage and madness left her. Amy looked at her with dread. Your husband? It can't be that horrible, can it? Isn't there a part of you that still has feelings for him? Matt fixed her gaze on her. I despise my husband, she snarled. I was completely alone. I was trapped in my own head. It was all his fault. They wanted to kill me, but he refused. He wouldn't let them. That does sound like Amy was about to explain that he was trying to protect her, but Maot's eyes conveyed a different story. And it was then that she realized. No, death would have come quickly. It would have been easy. But what he actually did was considerably worse. What he did caused her unnecessary pain for who knows how long. Any reservations she had about assisting this girl had vanished. I understand. I've already begun to make him pay. Her face was bright with a smile. I wish I could see how much suffering he's in right now. Can you tell me next time we see one another? How am I going to know who he is? Amy inquired, and she knew without Maot saying anything. I already meet him? Maot gave a nod. He is not what he appears to be. Deep down, he's a monster.